Other interesting cultural news of Conor McGregor in trouble as Ireland wants to restrict free speech for the quote-unquote common good, which is pretty much, again, I know public schools in the United States don't really teach history too much, which is why you have ACT scores at a 30-plus year low. Same with math, science, history. Pretty much every test score is mediocre, to say the least. And yet the teachers unions say they deserve even more money, of course. But as well as instances where if you do read a history book, you'll pretty much see that the most evil men in history, they all use that phrase. Or if you just watch a movie, shoot, they even mention that in most cliche movies, where all the evil bad guys always say, well, I guess I'm doing this, but it's for the common good, you see. And one of the most prolific quotes in history is, the road to hell is paved with good intentions, which is very much true. Now, this originally comes from Conor McGregor, and it got 21.9 million views. And it is his reaction to a clip by someone by the name of Ketchup. And that clip says, quote, the Irish Garden Commissioner Drew Harris is condemning the, quote, disgraceful scenes, unquote, in Dublin. He claims that a hooligan faction driven by the far-right ideology is behind the violence on the streets, where most of the coverage from not government coverage, a lot of them in comments, they're saying, well, no, these just happen to people are migrating here at very high rates, and a lot of people are calling out the fact that, well, we're not really screening people that come to our country, we're not doing a background check on them, and you're not allowed to say those things. That is verboten, as many countries would say. Now, Conor McGregor responded to this saying, quote, innocent children ruthlessly stabbed by a mentally deranged non-national in Dublin, Ireland today. Our chief of police had this to say on the riots in the aftermath. Drew, not good enough. There is a grave danger among us in Ireland that should never be there in the first place, and there has been zero action done to support the public in any way, shape, or form with this frightening fact. Not good enough. Make change or make way. Ireland for the victory. God bless those attacked today. We pray. Another thing is verboten in our society, can't utter the word pray. Heaven forbid. Now, that again got 21.9 million views and 99,000 likes. Because he had the audacity to question authority. I mean, they're going to say this is now hate speech. The Ireland government, they're going after him. Granted, he could probably fight off most of the... you see an average police officer in this video, he could probably be okay in a one-on-one fight. That's all I'm saying. Now, going to the comments of this particular clip, someone by the name of Golden Memes, who, I was going to say, gets an F- for marketing because their name is Golden Memes, but they responded in text, not a meme, or as some might say, a meme. Now, Golden Memes says, quote, we are all fed up, sincerely, citizens of the world, unquote. You got 6.2 thousand likes. That's unfathomable amount of likes. And 600,000 views. Lucas Cran Obelage, with a Ireland flag in his profile name, says, quote, a non-national Brazilian stopped this guy, but this doesn't fit Conor's narrative, unquote. Getting 6.6 thousand likes and going against Conor's original statement, perhaps, doesn't fit Conor's narrative. Never be in the first place. That's not how I'm interpreting Conor's statement. He's saying there's a danger that has never been here in the first place, which, again, perhaps, for my interpretation, I would think, well, you should probably screen people before they come to your country. You should probably know if they're a criminal or not. Again, I know you're not allowed to say that anymore, but one would think that would be a prudent thing to do. Now, someone by name of, going back to the top comments, someone by name of Westy says, quote, the world needs to understand open borders do not work, unquote. They got 10,000 likes, which is an astonishing amount of likes. Let's see here. Luke OJ says, quote, love Dublin when I visited. Please don't let it turn into London. Respect from the UK, unquote. Getting 2.3 thousand likes, which is another issue in and of itself. There actually is so much crime in the UK right now, and so many people with different flags. There are some citizens who had the British flag. Well, it's a losing flag. Why would I know that? I know the American flag. That's a winning flag. And the Texas flag, of course. But it's one of those instances where the local authorities told the citizens in the UK, oh yeah, you can't fly the British flag because you're angering the other group, the other people that are coming here. They have their flags, and they're very much against your flag. So they're saying you can't fly your own flag in your own country. You no longer own that country. You've been taken over. You're gone. Now, going over to the other comments, Washington Ghost says, quote, the replacement needs to end, and it needs to end now. I'm quoting 1.1 thousand likes. And this person, let's see here. There's a lot of pictures of all the destruction happening in Dublin. A lot of buildings, buses, and stuff on fire. That got 6.6 thousand likes. Someone by the name of Star. The person's name is the emoji. I know you can do that. Makes sense. Their profile picture is of an alien. So perhaps, English might not be their first primary language. Now, this alleged alien says, quote, "We need to begin mass deportations," unquote. They got 2,000 likes. Now, the real big question is, how do you determine who stays and who goes? That's been the debate as old as time. Again, you do need to have, for one, you should have a screening process to begin with. You should probably sit down and say, what's this person doing in terms of, are they supporting a local business? Are they here on a work visa? Are they currently employed? Are they adding a net positive? Are they contributing a tax revenue? What's the situation? You would need to ramp up you have to ramp up your capabilities to cover and process all these people. But I think many would say it's probably worth doing. Now, going over to the other comments, let's see here. Mr. by the name of Real Malouf says, quote, "The terrorist was pro-Palestine Algerian Muslim. It's important to mention that," unquote. They got 739 likes. Let's see here. And then as we go, a lot of people in the comments saying we need to take our countries back. We need to build some walls. Those are getting between 400 and 700 likes. Even 1,000 likes in some of these cases. Someone by the name of Blue Jay, A+ for marketing. Their profile picture is in fact of a blue jay. Now this blue jay, although I don't think birds can actually tweet. Well, I should say post on Twitter, since they don't have, I guess they could use their beak. Let's just say this is probably a human. So we'll say an alleged blue jay says, quote, "If being labeled as far right for siding with children not being stabbed, then I'll probably wear that title," unquote. That got 693 likes. Let's see here. And then going over to the other instance of this situation, this is in which you have the Ireland wanting to restrict free speech, which is the truest indication of tyranny. And this comes to us thanks to a user on Twitter known as Libs of TikTok. And this got 3.6 million views. And this is hearing from Irish. Let's see here. There are a couple of people speaking on this. The quote before the video that Libs of TikTok notes says, quote, "We are restricting freedom for the common good," unquote. Irish Senator Pauline O'Reilly on Ireland's, quote, "hate speech bill." The bill restricts freedom and censors views about other people's identities and make them feel, quote unquote, discomfort and, quote unquote, insecure. Which again means they'll limit all free speech. Because again, just think about it. Any speech that makes someone feel discomfortable? What? Okay. That's literally everything since the dawn of time? It's as simple. That can be interpreted in any way, and that's what the judges want. They want unlimited control. They want unlimited power. Unlimited interpretation with the most ambiguous laws ever. But we'll play this quick 41-second clip before I continue.
When you think about it, all law, all legislation is about the restriction of freedom. That's exactly what we're doing here, is we are restricting freedom, but we're doing it for the common good.
Oh.
You will see throughout our constitution, yes, you have rights, but they are restricted for the common good. Everything needs to be balanced. And if your view...
Except government powers. Funny enough, all these politicians go, oh yeah, more laws, more, but nothing to restrict us, of course. We get all the power. No restrictions in our regard.
On other people's identities go to make their lives unsafe, insecure, and cause them such deep discomfort that they cannot live in peace, then I believe that it is our job as legislators to restrict those freedoms for the common good. When you think about
perhaps the most mentally and morally vacuous thing I've heard in quite some time. Granted, the bar is pretty low, just tuning into any politician usually these days. Well, they usually lose some brain cells tuning in, but also usually just full of moral depravity and disgusting unconstitutional ideas. Now, going to the comments section, again, that got 3.6 million views and 16,000 likes. Again, this is what they're going to use to go after Conor McGregor for having the audacity of tweeting something, of saying that he's praying for the people to get better who are injured, and that the country needs to do something about these situations. it's no longer a slippery slope theory. It's a slippery slope rule. It's one of those instances where every time, and we talked about this with a lot of topics, including the Second Amendment, a lot of social issues. It's one of those things where the slippery slope is just all too true. It's not even a theory anymore. I would argue it's actually the proven concept by this point. Now, going to the comments section, again, got 3.6 million views. The Dank Knight says, quote, anyone who tries to restrict your freedoms to make others feel safe is your enemy. Thank you for attending my TED Talk, unquote. That got 2.9 thousand likes. Dr. Clown PhD says, quote, George Orwell has an important message for you. It is a picture of George Orwell, I believe it's using AI, holding a sign, and it says, I effing told you, unquote. Which is true, which is why perhaps public schools don't teach these books, because government doesn't want to know you. The worst, most morally depraved things in history are always done by governments. I mean, every person, I would argue, should read 1984 by George Orwell, as well as Animal House by George Orwell. They're not just brilliant novels, but there are a lot of great morals they can read from the books, including the biggest moral of all, which is don't trust the government. It's one of those instances where everything in those books is happening in real life. Some might argue even worse in real life, given how much power the government now has via technology as well. Now, that got 1.6 thousand likes. Someone by the name of Libercat TM says, quote, in other words, free speech is dangerous unless liberals control it, unquote. That got 1.7 thousand likes. Stags Hammer 666 says, quote, give Ireland back to the Irish and take it away from their political prostitute class, unquote. Getting 1.6 thousand likes. Planet of Memes says, quote, if you say things like you're restricting free speech for the common good, you're not on the side of the good guys, unquote. Got 1,000 likes. Mad Bomber says, quote, the Irish will have to speak loud and clear on their next election or they will be silenced forever, unquote, getting 244 likes. Although who's to say if there's even going to be a next election? I mean, just saying I want to vote for Bob or someone else, I mean, someone else they could feel threatened by that. And they might restrict your free speech. Oh no, we're going to label that person as an extremist or a terrorist or whatever pejorative term you want to use that the government has used historically to circumvent any modicum of laws or rights people used to have. Just label them something and all those rights just vanish in a second. The Patriot Act, among other things. Someone by the name of Freddie says, quote, before communism, the final words of any free nation was, quote, for the better good, unquote. They got 438 likes. Deepa says, quote, Ireland is looking like another 1984 country, unquote, getting 431 likes. Very true. The Appalachian Podcast says, quote, we'd like to restrict her for the common good, unquote, getting 449 likes. Someone by name, again, Libercat TM said again, says, quote, remember when he warned us? And there's a picture of Trump, and he said, and the text next to Trump is, I told you they were corrupt as hell, believe me now, unquote, getting 523 likes. Let's see here. A lot of AI being used to generate pictures of George Orwell saying, I effing told you so, or I was right. Brit says, quote, hurting someone's feelings is not a crime, unquote, getting 110 likes. And yes, that's what will happen once this law is passed. Or if they just signed their pen, just made it a law in a New York minute. Now, let's see here. Kurt Schumer says, quote, people like this, no matter what country, should never be allowed to have power. This is the very definition of tyranny. Once they're in, it's almost possible to get them out. They'll strip you of your rights and stay in power for, quote unquote, the common good, unquote, getting 717 likes. Let's see here. And it looks like overwhelmingly positive responses in regard to people pushing against this draconian dystopian nightmare of trying to restrict free speech. I wonder if people will try to vote differently, maybe protest, or just leave tyranny and go to somewhere like the United States, where even the United States, a wise man, I believe Ted Nugent once said the whole world sucks, but the U.S. sucks the least. It's one of the instances where there are many states in the United States that are actually pushing for laws like this. I'll restrict your free speech. I believe Michigan is actually one of the instances where it passed one of their house. I believe it was the House. It passed one part of the government. It's going to be sent over to the other to be approved, possibly, in which, yes, it would be a crime to make someone else feel uncomfortable with their speech. And again, the language is so broad, it can mean anything, which is what they want, which is why you should be very fearful if you care about your rights. But it'll be interesting to see what happens with Ireland, if maybe Conor McGregor just becomes a full-blown American citizen, or what he does in that regard. But it'll be interesting to see. As I always say, time shall tell. Thank you again for everyone taking the time to do it in today. Again, we're trying to get to 4,000 subscribers by the end of December, so if you click that button, I greatly appreciate it. Also, leaving a comment is a great way to help me learn and how things I could be improved better, including my speaking aptitudes, which I'm slowly but surely increasing on and getting better at. Some might say it's because of my theory of when you click the subscribe button, it helps with that. I'm not a doctor, but just saying, it's worth trying out. Also, and lastly, don't forget to take time to tell your family, tell your friends, tell your coworkers, heck, tell your enemies, tell anyone and everyone. Just stay safe and fight the good fight.